With Sonic and DC having a brand new crossover this year, the idea for a video quickly sprang to mind. The various crossovers between Archie, Sonic the Hedgehog, and dozens of other properties and comics. There have been quite a few over the course of this comic's history, and I thought it would be fun to do a speed run through them and maybe introduce some more obscure ones to people who aren't familiar with Archie Sonic. Don't be expecting any deep criticism, these will just be very quick looks at the crossovers. Just to get this out of the way, I'm not counting parodies of characters who appear in Archie Sonic or vice versa. They have to be the actual versions of the characters, and there needs to be an actual story surrounding it. The only exception I'm making to this rule is this cute Sonic balloon that appears in the Archie meets the Punisher crossover. Starting off with our first real crossover, we have the world of Archie Sonic stepping into the world of 90s Image Comics. It's only the first one, and this one basically almost broke me with how nonsensical it is. So as far as I can gather, this guy named Ian Droid, who is an original character, wants to use the Floating Island's Chaos Emerald to rewrite the universe, using this lady named Particle to do it. This leads to all of the Archie Sonic characters traveling to the world of Image Comics, where they get to meet some of the 90s Image characters like Shadowhawk and Savage Dragon. Spawn famously shows up for one page before telling Sonic and company to piss off. I'm guessing Todd was more of a Nintendo fan and said no. All the heroes work together to stop Ian Droid and retrieve the Master Emerald, resulting in everything returning to normal with no memories of this event, thank God. This may be one of the most nonsensical things Ken has ever written, and that is saying something. Everything bounces around so much that you never really have a solid idea of who you're supposed to be following in all this. The heroes interact in bizarre and unsatisfying ways that don't really make for a good crossover story, and it feels like the entire thing is just being hijacked for the Image characters and Ken's original characters. Sonic and the Freedom Fighters get next to nothing outside of the Chaos Emerald being the reason for everyone's involvement. There's also a nod to the X-Files with two characters named after the leads from that show who are here for some reason. Did Ken just really like that show and wanted to include those characters for some reason? Is this what having a stroke feels like? Also, did Ian Droid predict what a Genesis wave was in later issues of Archie Sonic? I don't think I like that. The art by Jim Valentino isn't doing anyone any favors, Sonic or otherwise. The nicest thing I can say about the art in this book is the pinup done by Patrick Spaziante, with my favorite part being Spawn and Sonic right here. You know what? That's what the story needed. More Spawn, because that guy is cool. If they sat on this for a few more years, they could have waited to have him team up with Shadow. Now that would have been awesome. But hey, this crossover was a backdoor pilot to one of Ken's original comics, The Lost Ones. Maybe he found some success there when writing in his element. One issue. Oh. In Archie and Friends, A Halloween Tale, this special sees Sabrina the Teenage Witch at a local comic book shop picking up the latest issues of Sonic and Knuckles for her talking cat, Salem. Sabrina uses one of her spells to cast her and a comic book snob into the world of Archie Sonic, right in the middle of a confrontation between Sonic, Knuckles, and Robotnik. Sabrina uses her magic to head back home, accidentally bringing Sonic and Knuckles with her. Since Sabrina realizes she's late for a costume party, she just drags the two along until she can figure out a way to fix this. Sonic and Knuckles have a hard time getting into the party. Jughead dresses up as Dr. Robotnik and nearly gets viciously assaulted by Sonic and Knuckles before they're sent back to their world. So, we got a crossover between Archie Sonic, Sabrina the Teenage Witch, Archie, and Josie and the Pussycats, and this one is actually pretty entertaining. Sonic and Knuckles feel pretty on point, and the story is so light that nobody ever really loses focus. Spaz, once again, returns to draw all of the Sonic characters, and they look great. I think I like this one just for the scene where they try to murder Jughead. I will say, Sonic and Knuckles using the term overlanders in a comic about them meeting Sabrina and Archie just kind of shows how wild this half of the Sonic series was once upon a time. Another crossover with Sabrina, this time just between her and the Hedgehog. Out of all the characters I'll be talking about today, I think Sabrina the Teenage Witch might be the most unheard of out of the bunch. Sabrina is an Archie Comics character about a teenage girl who was raised by witches and goes on magical adventures whilst dealing with the trials that come with growing up as a teenager. She's had comics, cartoons, live-action TV shows, and a whole bunch of stuff. I'll be honest and admit I don't know too much about Sabrina's history or lore, so if I mess up on some things about the character, I do apologize. My only knowledge of Archie Comics extends to the Blue Bums. I will also apologize for not explaining who Sabrina is during the last story because I wrote this part first and I got my stories mixed up. This crossover starts in Sabrina issue 28 and continues into Sonic Super Special issue 10, where the evil Enchantra uses her magical abilities on a computer to look out into the multiverse, finding the world of Mobius and its hero Sonic the Hedgehog. She abducts and mind controls Sonic to take him back and destroy Sabrina, with Sally Acorn chasing after him. Sonic makes a mess of things and has a few scuffles with Sabrina, ending with him smacking face first into a tree to knock himself out, ending his mind control. Sally finds Enchantra and threatens her with revealing the location of this world to the various villains of Mobius, promising not to do so if Enchantra sends both her and Sonic home. She agrees, with the added side effect that neither Sonic nor Sally will remember this event. The two arrive back on Mobius and Sally rolls her eyes at Sonic being an idiot. This was actually my first time reading the crossover in full, and oh boy, was this not great. Sonic spends most of this story being hypnotized and acting evil, so we never get to see what he thinks of Sabrina's world outside of being angry that he was used by Enchantra. And even when he is acting like himself, he's written wildly out of character and just kind of acts like a moron. I'm very confused because both the Sabrina issue and the Super Special, which features part 2, were written by longtime Archie Sonic writer Mike Gallagher. This should have been called Sabrina Meets Sally Acorn because she's the one who does all the talking with Sabrina. The art for the Sabrina characters looks perfectly fine, the typical Archie art style, but Sonic and Sally are rough here. Another longtime Archie Sonic team member, Dave Manick, did pencils alongside Dan DiCarlo, and anytime the Sonic characters appear, it just looks terrible. Why is Enerjack wearing a cereal box? Who is that? Stupid stuff I found funny. Salem, Sabrina's talking black cat, refers to Sonic as a comic book character. Enchantra listing all of the Archie Sonic villains like it's some kind of shallow advertisement. Enchantra acting like Warlord Kodos is something to be impressed by. Sonic having his green eyes. Robotnik being mentioned even though that dude was dead by this point. Sabrina suddenly changes outfits between issues. This was a really rough read and I'm kind of glad that I skipped it for as long as I did. What I look for in a good crossover story is something that uses both worlds to their full potential to craft an interesting narrative, and also some dumb fan service because I'm a stupid caveman who claps his belly like a seal when that sort of stuff happens. Sabrina Meets Sonic is neither interesting or fun to read, it's just dull. This one continues from Sonic Super Special issue 10. After evil Sonic gets dissed by his gang for being an underachiever, Robotnik, seemingly alive after his death in issue 50, recruits the evil Blue Blur to collect pieces of the giant Borg battlesuit, a mech from Sonic issue 19, which had been scattered into pieces across the multiverse. In response to this threat, Sonic the Zone Cop acquires the help of Sonic Prime to stop evil Sonic from getting the final piece, which just so happens to be in the world of Sonic Underground. Sonic and Sonic recruit the Hedgehog triplets from that universe in their search for evil Sonic and the giant Borg pieces. Evil Sonic soon meets with Robotnik with the giant Borg pieces, only for Robotnik to have no idea who this bonehead is, ordering him to be sent away for roboticizing. The Robotnik who recruited evil Sonic was actually Robo-Robotnik from issue 19, laying the seeds for his big return in issue 74 and 75. Quick note, I goofed in my Sonic video and said that evil Sonic and Underground Robotnik were working together when that wasn't the case. Just letting you know now, and I also left a pinned comment under that video correcting my mistake. Underground Robotnik rebuilds the giant Borg and starts to terrorize a city with it, but Sonic, Sonic, and the Underground Sonic all team up to stop him, with Sony and Manic freeing evil Sonic from his prison cell. Sonic takes evil Sonic back with him to be locked away, Sonic returns back to Mobius Prime, and the Hedgehog triplets just wonder when they'll be seeing more multiversal shenanigans. Written by Carl Bollers, this was a weak crossover, but a pretty decent single adventure for both Sonic and Sonic. Rather than Archie Sonic getting nothing to do, it's sadly the Underground cast that gets very little representation, feeling more like a lazy advertisement for the show rather than an earnest attempt at highlighting their series. Dingo and Sleet are miscolored for some reason. Even in the reprints, they're both colored to be overly brown and black. The art is a little better than the Sabrina crossover, though not by much. It simply isn't terrible to look at, and I have a decent idea of what's going on. Stupid stuff that I liked. I actually do like the use of Robo-Robotnik here, as the use of the giant Borg gives a pretty big clue to his identity prior to issue 75, and it sets him up as a credible threat if he's extending out to the multiverse again. Cora Bullers writes Evil Sonic as a massive loser who isn't meant to be taken super seriously. Evil Sonic is listed as being from Mobius number 372. I suppose I should also mention the scrapped Sonic Universe issue 50 that was going to be a finale for Sonic Underground, which sadly got scrapped in favor of a story about Shard and Metal Sonic. Big shame about that, but Archie Sonic Online did do a version of that story, which I recommend you check out. In this other Archie Sonic Halloween crossover, Sonic and Knuckles show up as Trace Sonic Adventure stock art. Riveting stuff, absolutely had to mention this one. Technically cheating because this is just an adaptation of a video game, but I figured I'd count it. This is an out-of-continuity story depicting a race from the Sonic and All-Stars Racing series, where Sonic meets other Sega characters such as Beat from Jet Set Radio, That Monkey from Monkey Ball, Vice from Skies of Arcadia, and Danica Patrick, famous Sega character. This issue sees Dr. Eggman arriving at the annual Grand Prix to cause some trouble, with Sonic and co. needing to put the Doctor in his place. Basically just an advertisement for the game, but it is a crossover, so I thought to include it. Just some cute Saturday morning-esque writing and some nice art by Tracy Yardley. For Danica Patrick's car, they kept the GoDaddy.com and Hot Wheels logos on her car, and I think that's very funny to see in a Sonic comic. Finally, a crossover that makes sense. Worlds Collide was the big crossover event between Sonic the Hedgehog and Mega Man. Having been set up in issues prior for both books, Dr. Eggman and Dr. Wily team up to take over their respective worlds, with the help of their Skull Egg Zone, robot forces, and roboticized versions of Sonic's friends called the Roboticized Masters. After a brief misunderstanding between the two heroes, Sonic and Mega Man kick it into high gear to rescue Sonic's friends and stop the evil scientists from ruling the multiverse. It's an epic 12-part story that brings together the wide worlds of both Sonic and Mega Man using universe-altering shenanigans to take a break from the Archie continuity for both books to something closer to that of the video games, i.e. Sonic's comic cast is nowhere to be seen outside of brief references, and Mega Man has already experienced the events of Mega Man's 1 through 10. It's references and mashups galore, and I feel like if I just sat here and explained all of my favorite Easter eggs and moments, I'd be taking the fun out of it for people who haven't read this story before, so definitely go give it a read for yourself so you're not spoiled. I will say that my favorite part had to be the partnership between Dr. Eggman and Dr. Wily. At first, they hit it off extremely well, praising the other and just enjoying their time until Sonic and Mega Man start to undo their plan and their friendship starts to unravel. They get a lot of funny and interesting moments together, much more than the heroes, I'm afraid. Mega Man himself is fine, no worries there, but Sonic is rather annoying in this arc. He's just kind of a jerk all the time and none of his quips ever really land. I don't think he's really a great representation of Game Sonic or Archie Sonic. He's just kind of an extra annoying hybrid of the two for the most part. The coloring can also look quite ugly in some issues, but the art itself is consistently good, with artists such as Tracy Yardley and Ben Bates really stepping up. Shout out to Ben Bates in particular, his stuff looked stellar here. I also almost forgot to mention the wonderful covers done by Patrick Spaziante. They all look gorgeous. Sorry if I don't have much to say in regards to Worlds Collide, but it really is just a fun event that you need to read for yourself. Sonic and Mega Man Worlds Unite was the second and last crossover between the Blue Buds, and sadly it fails to live up to the original in my opinion. This crossover sees not only the worlds of Sonic and Mega Man crossing over, but Mega Man X, Sonic Boom, and a wide roster of Sega and Capcom characters for an epic showdown against Sigma and his Mavericks. Rather than a heavy rewrite of the multiverse, the versions of Sonic and Mega Man seen here are their Archie Comics counterparts, meaning this follows up events from both books going on at the time and includes characters such as the Freedom Fighters and Quake Woman tagging along. We get another Heroes vs. Heroes moment near the beginning with Sonic Man and Mega Man before they cure themselves, with the ranks of the heroes quickly getting bigger as more and more heroes join the fight against Sigma. This all ends in a climactic battle between Super Sonic, Super Mega Man, and Sigma, with everything being set back to normal as if nothing had ever happened. I think the biggest issue with this crossover was being way too much, way too soon. The last crossover was barely 25 issues ago for both books, and rather than just keeping it focused on Sonic and Mega Man, they go way too far by bringing in a whole bunch of Sega and Capcom characters. It is neat seeing them here, and we continue to get the same kind of crossover hype as the last one, but you've already had Mega Man X, Sonic Lost World, Sonic Boom, and Archie characters being added into the mix. That would have been more than enough for an exciting crossover. It is nice that the Freedom Fighters get to be included in the fun and are given some cute moments in crossovers with other characters, and knowing that these characters were close to never being seen again, I'm glad we got more time with them. I just wish the Gamecast had a bit more time to play around in the crossover as well. Shadow and Rouge get taken out of the plot in a really stupid way, and Silver only shows up once in a tie-in issue and is never seen again. Styx and a handful of side characters from Boom are the only representatives of that universe, but if we were going to have what was basically two versions of Mega Man, shut up, I know they're different characters, it would have been nice to have another Sonic to even things out. Some of my favorite parts of Worlds Unite are actually the backup stories that serve to flesh out the characters, such as Mega Man meeting X or Knuckles trying to help a Zeddy-controlled Proto Man before he can do something he would regret. These aren't just cute little nods between characters and our actual stories. If the rest of the crossover had more of these moments instead of focusing on the other Sega Capcom characters, I think it would have easily cleared Worlds Collide. I would have loved to have seen this cute little exchange between Quake Woman and Nicole be fleshed out into a small story. Other stuff that I liked, Zeddy Sigma, the Deadly Six forcing Rock to shoot himself in the head, goddamn. The art here is a major step down from the previous crossover, namely in the early half with this weird 3D modelish look for everything. There are definitely some highlights, such as Tyson Hess's few issues and a few stories done by Tracy Yardley and Ben Bates, was the greats, but this crossover seriously starts off on the wrong foot art-wise. The coloring in these early issues is especially ugly too. I understand that's going for something moody, but it just looks gross. We really start to sink back into early 2000s Archie Sonic art, and I don't think having Tyson Hess penciled these last few issues really makes up for it. But I am going to praise the hell out of those issues though, because oh my goodness, these look so good. The final battle with Sigma in particular is stellar, and it makes me sad how little comic work Tyson Hess did, because his stuff in Archie always looked great. Diana Skelly's small Knuckles and Proto Man story is also a highlight, and I don't think I appreciated her art nearly enough when she worked during the reboot. The last crossover I didn't want to go into too much detail because I thought it would take the fun out of it for new readers. This one I just don't want to talk about because it's such a drag. All it is characters getting shuffled around to the next set piece, and it's just boring. I don't have a strong grasp on how comic scheduling works, but I really wish we didn't get this crossover because it came near the tail end of both comic series and ate up time when we could have continued the story for both. We missed out on some Freedom Fighter stories in Sonic Universe and a Sonic and Knuckles adaptation just for a crossover that I don't think that many people really cared about or liked. At the very least, Mega Man had wrapped up its biggest arc at that time and had only just gotten started on its Mega Man 4 adaptation, so I can't be too upset there. It's just a shame that so much time was wasted on a crossover of this quality. And that about covers it. Which was your favorite crossover, and why was it the ones with Mega Man? Feel free to talk about it in the comments and have a nice rest of your day.